seed of somebody else. And you now have the legal right. That word possess. You can't possess unless you dispossess. Disinherit. Cast out. Take over. Take charge. And take control. Which now means now that I start to think differently. I no longer see myself as an underdog. I no longer see myself as being underrated. I now know who I truly am. As the seed of Abraham, I am a possessor. Tell your neighbor, I'm a possessor, I'm a possessor. Which literally means now, I have been given delegated authority to lay claim on everything I will ever need to fulfill everything that God has put me on this earth to accomplish. So hereafter, I don't feel sorry for myself. A challenge no longer makes me cry all night, but a challenge makes me get up 2 a.m., 3 a.m., walk the corridors of my house and said, God, in Genesis 22, you said, I shall possess the gates of my enemy. I stand upon that word, and wherever the gates are, I am in control. My God, I am in charge, and I make a declaration. Hear me. Anything I possess, I own it. Anything I own, I do what I want to do with it. So sorry, devil, I now own the very gate that you're trying to slip through. And I forbid you to come any longer into my house. My children shall be taught of the Lord. They shall walk in covenantal blessing and become inheritors of this earth. Somebody better get happy and give God a shout of praise in here. So I'm born to own. I'm born to own. Say that with me. I'm born to own. You got it? You're born to own. Some folks are born to earn, which means I've got to go to somebody to get me a job so that I can live. But if I understand this carefully, I am supposed to be in charge. Somebody shout, I'm the head, not the tail. I'm above and not beneath. I am the blessed and not the stressed. I'm anointed to take over. I'm anointed to be in charge. No, give God a praise because you are taking over. Born for a purpose. If I possess the gate, I have controlling rights, which means I'm in a position of dominion and domination, which means nothing can come through without my permission. Oh God. Nothing can enter without my knowledge, because anything I possess, I become the keeper of it. Let me move on quickly. So we control the gateways. We determine what enters and we determine what exits and how quickly. Now watch what's happening here now. Because God said to Abraham, guess what, Abraham? Your people, or my people, will sojourn in a strange land for 400 years. Then after this time, I'm going to bring them out. Which means that some things we are currently in and facing are temporary. So God said, Egypt is one stop en route to where you're going. Now, when these boys came down to Egypt, they came with substance. They came with possessions. They came with abilities. And they settled in the land that was called Goshen. Pharaoh allocated a portion to them. But the Bible says, and we want to watch this carefully, is that when they came here and they settled, for years they lived there. They felt comfortable. But Abraham's word was, you're not going to stay here all the days of your life. There is coming a time when you're going to have to leave. Bible said Joseph died. All those of his brethren died. An entire generation was now dead. And there arose a new Pharaoh that did not know Joseph. Now I find that interesting, because the Egyptians were some of the greatest record keepers. And historical records have alluded to the fact that there was the existence of a prime minister in Egypt. Archaeological digs have discovered that Joseph existed. But what really had happened was somebody was blotting out the records concerning Joseph in order to fulfill a diabolical plot or threat to the ancestors of Joseph. To the ancestors of Joseph, or rather the descendants of Joseph. Hear me good. Some of us, if you check our historical records carefully, we came from the loins of chiefs and kings. But 7 generations later, we find that we who should be owners have now been living in a position of servitude, living a subsistence life from hand to mouth, while our great forefathers owned the property and the business. The enemy has successfully been able to wipe out our family or families of origin. So even though you might have been an Ashanti great king's daughter, you don't even know who you are, because that record is no longer available. But when I became born again, the Bible said that God now took me from being an ordinary mortal, bypassed all those kings, and made me sit together in heavenly places with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. So I have a better connection, Lord. So the records were wiped out. Nobody knew. It's not that the information wasn't there, but it was locked away. So a generation arose that when they went to Egypt initially, they were owners, rich, people of influence, people of wealth and worth. But several generations removed, they were as broke as peasants. We getting somewhere today. What happened? It's just like Ruth, who her great-great-great-great-grandfather owned property. But we find Ruth, she's gleaning for sheaves in somebody else's land.